Welcome to Diverse Orange, our conversations about diversity here in Central Florida. My guest today is Luis Fernandez. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, doing pretty good. Happy to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Super. So, I think you were born in South Florida. Is that right?
Yes, I was. I was born in Hialeah, Florida, actually. I was born
And
out there. Yeah, go ahead.
were your parents from Cuba?
So, my father was the first in my family that was born in the States, and everybody prior to him was all from Cuba. So, he was the first generation of American born in our family. And So yeah, my mother and father they met in Miami, and eventually my mother ended up moving to Arkansas, and I went to Arkansas, which is nowhere near the same as Miami. But I think along the way, even after spending time in Arkansas for about 16 years, I came back to Florida, and I even though I was born in South Florida, I liked Orlando as one of my favorite spots. I feel like through all the course of my life, I got to see a lot of different aspects and a lot of different cultures. And I feel like Orlando is very welcoming to all that. And that's one of the things I liked about Orlando coming in back to the area, actually.
How old were you when you moved to Arkansas?
So I was actually 6 years old. Yeah, I was six all the way to about 20, 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, being of Cuban heritage in South Florida, uh, you probably got a lot of Cuban culture and were just like a lot of people around you, but maybe not so much in Arkansas.
Yeah, it was a different exposure for sure. The culture was very different, especially since all my Cuban family was in Miami, and then I was with my mother's family in Arkansas. So it was a whole different way of living out there. And there were certain things. I don't even think people geographically even knew where Cuba was in some cases when I lived in Arkansas. But no, it was interesting to explain and also have to learn more about myself in order to be able to tell the difference. Once I came back to Florida, learning from all my peers and people in my family and things like that, I started learning like, wow, there was a lot of things I really didn't know as well about my culture growing up. Um,
In Arkansas, were you received as, oh, you're a Cuban or you're foreign or you're different, or were you just part of the community?
uh, um, a lot of people had the mistake of thinking I was Mexican a lot of times, if I'm being completely honest. But I mean, to me, I had no idea. I didn't think anything of it. I just felt at a point to kind of that's where I said is I wanted to learn more about myself in that circumstance in order to be able to convey in those situations. Um, but I don't think any offense was taken to it. I remember coming back to Miami later and telling people some of these stories, and they're like, "No way, no way!" But to me, it didn't mean anything because I wasn't conditioned to think that way. I was just like, "Oh well, this is just a situation that we all just need to learn more from." But yeah, that was. I think that's. I think it was a gift having those two different uh, environments to learn from and kind of combine that knowledge personally.
Hmm. And what are the some of the things that are so different about Arkansas?
Oh man, so I come from a city of about 900 total in the population. You're talking about lots of wide open spaces. Certain seasons I recall seeing the cotton. You could see cotton fields. It looked like snow, and you could just see
Hmm.
it for miles and miles and miles. I remember the long drives to everything. A lot of things were very different. I always used to joke that we had a movie theater. The closest one was about 30, 40 minutes away. And at the time, this was a funny joke, but I was always joking like they're still showing Batman Returns. And I think this was after like two or three Batman sequels at the time. But it was different. There's a lot of things. I remember a CD store. You had to drive an hour to go to a CD store. And me being a lover of music, I would make that hike like once a month to go pick up all my favorite CDs from the CD store. That was an hour drive away. But that was part of the ritual for me. You know, you just adapt to the environment, and you really don't know until you see something different.
Is there anything you miss about Arkansas?
Miss about Arkansas? Well, first of all, the thing without a doubt is the people. I think you get attached to the people and the places that you're brought up, and as much as you'd like to bring everybody with you, unfortunately, that's not a realistic reality. So that's the one thing I miss for sure. A lot of the things we would do were felt a lot more not planned. Like I think I like how simple it felt out there. Like sometimes in the city, I feel like in order to meet up with people and have a good time, it has to be planned with our busy schedules. And out there, it was just like, there's really nothing else to do, so this is what we're going to do.
Right.
But I like it. I thought it was interesting to see both aspects for sure.
So you said coming back, you started to learn a lot more about your heritage. So, having been away so long, were you like a foreigner to the South Florida Hispanic community?
I was in a way, but then I started to realize how much things just sort of made sense getting back to, around my family and them eating food and introducing me to certain things. And like my palate is just, whether I was raised a certain way or not, when I eat some of those foods, it's like to me, it's amazing. The feeling that you get from some of the cultural foods that you eat from the family when you're, now I'll be honest, like nobody's gonna make these foods the way my grandmother or my aunts and all these people make them. So that's a different conversation all in its own, I guess. But I don't know why, but for some reason, what really throws me deeper into culture more than anything has to be the food. That's my love language, I guess you could say.
And what's a favorite food?
Oh, my favorite is one called vaca frita, which is not really an impressive title at all, but it's basically like a shredded beef that's seasoned and with some black beans and rice. That's just always been a favorite of mine. I just love that. And then if I can get the plantains with the crushed garlic and some salt, oh man, I'm starting to get hungry now. But I love it.
And do you find places to get those foods here in the Orlando area?
I actually do, yes. I found some very interesting spots. I've always liked Zaza as one of the quick go-tos, If there's one place I could think of off the top of my head that's nice, but there is a place in Maitland I love. Um, it's called Ray's, Ray's Cuban Cafe. Man, that's now nobody's gonna get close to grandma or my aunts,
At least
but
you won't
that's a
admit
nice.
that in front of them.
Thank you, thank you. And definitely would never will. And I don't think I can, honestly. In my heart says there's no way. So, in my head and my heart, I don't think it's possible. But that's a good, close enough, solution. Is I'll go to Ray's and close my eyes, and I'll dip scoop in there and probably call them on the speakerphone, and I'll live the experience real quick.
Is there, if there anything you could make happen or be existing in Central Florida that isn't right now, what would that be?
Mm, I do think I would like to see. I know we talked a lot about food. I think there's some pretty cool cultural things going on as far as music and all those types of things in some of the different spaces you go to in Orlando. I think we nailed that. But as a huge fan of Cuban food, I would love more options personally. I've been scouring a bunch of places, and there's some really nice spots I do like, but then some of it just feels, I don't know, I can't explain. When I'm in South Florida and Miami, I feel like I could stumble into any place and it's really close. But it feels a little different here in some places. Like I know one thing, there's certain sauces and stuff. If I see, I'm just like, oh, that doesn't feel right.
Well,
No,
at
no,
least you found some places that do it right.
I have, and
That's
Rays
great.
is one of them, and there's a couple other options. If we had a lengthy talk into some options, I could definitely
Great.
run on some stuff with that.
Well, we're glad you found some places that make you feel at home here, and we want you to feel at home here in Central Florida. And thank you for coming to talk to me today about your life here on Diverse Orange.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching this edition of Diverse Orange.